Hello and welcome to Alive and Composing the Wonderful World of Innova with today's guest, John Yao. Hi John, can you state your name for the record?
John Yao. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
And what instrument did you play when you were 7 and what instrument did you play when you were 11?
Jeez. I don't know the exact instruments. I know I started on piano and then I switched to trombone. And I guess it was probably around that period. How old are you when you're in 5th grade? Is that...
It depends how many times you go through 5th grade, I think.
Well, I only did it once, luckily. So but I started out on piano and hated my piano teacher with a passion. She was not a very friendly person. So I made a deal with my mom to switch to another instrument and get me off of piano, and trombone was my way out. And I just kind of gravitated towards it that at the beginning, and then it didn't bother, that first day of class when you try all the instruments, I didn't bother trying anything else. I found it, I liked it, and that was it. So I cut the deal, and here I am.
Is there something, I think when in Chinese culture, when you have a baby, you put different toys in front of them, and if they pick up the blade, they're going to be one thing. If they pick up the teddy bear, they're going to be something else. Do you think the trombone was talking to you that day?
Maybe. I couldn't tell you what it means by choosing the trombone. I mean, maybe it's, I don't know. I couldn't tell you what it means. I guess, I kind of think that trombone picked me in a weird way, but at the end of the day, it's playing both was like invaluable, because I ended up coming back to the piano when I was in college, and it really still to this day is a huge help for writing and for just getting different ideas and having a better understanding of harmony and all these things. So it's just it's not like I never touched the piano again after I started playing trombone. So it's been a really good tool in conjunction with the horn to have both.
Do you draw any life lessons from that? That if you hate something with a passion, you should just go off in a different direction for a while and then maybe integrate it later on in your life? Do you tell that to students?
I guess it's at the time you don't really realize what how valuable it is. I guess I have passed that on to students. I've passed on the things that this may the idea that what we're doing right now may not seem like, well, may not be very much fun, or maybe it's not important, but it is actually it comes around to help you out, or it can come around to bite you in the ass at the end of the day, years later, if you end up pursuing this. And so yeah, I try to bring that up as a teacher, just keeping everything in perspective, which is hard to do when you're 12. You're not thinking about like what you're going to be doing 20 years later. You're just trying to get through the end of the week or whatever. So
now you teach improvisation, among other things. Is part of that being in the now? Is that why you chose that as a title for your CD?
It's not why I chose it. It can definitely be applied to it. The title came from my girlfriend's mother, and the last 2 years my girlfriend she was pretty sick. She's going in and out of the hospital, getting chemo treatments and all sorts of stuff. And luckily she's doing great now. But at the time, it was just kind of came out of nowhere and hit us unexpectedly. And it was a hard thing to deal with for a long, still is, but it was at the time it was just hard to process it all and kind of put everything in perspective. It's so hard to stay focused, because you keep looking back how things used to be, and then you start looking forward and how things are going to be from here on out. And so I had this conversation with her mom on a car ride back from the hospital, and she was really smart woman, really wise, and she just mentioned to me, I guess all we can do is just to right now is just to stay in the now and just stay in the moment, and And that's just something that kind of it clicked for me, and really it hit me pretty hard, and it was something that I just wanted to kind of keep in mind musically, as well as, as a life lesson.
What's your greatest fear?
Wow, that's a good one. Jeez. I guess, I had a teacher say this to me, and this is a very accomplished writer and player, and it's, I guess, sort of sometimes I fear, like, wow, maybe people are going to figure out that maybe I really can't play, or that I don't know what I'm doing. I've fooled everyone. No, I guess, just being not able to play music would be something that would be hard to deal with. I think I was confronted with that when I went away to school, and I wasn't a music major per se when I got to undergrad, and then all of a sudden, once I realized it was, that part of my life had been taken away from me, I had to fight to get it back, and so yeah, that would be a fear, I guess.
As a trombonist, are your lips and teeth insured for many millions of dollars, since so much rides on the success alone?
No, they're not. I don't even have my instrument insured. No, it's not something I've investigated. Luckily I have the piano to fall back on. I love playing the trombone, and it presents a daily challenge that, it can be a blessing, it can be a curse. Some days things are really easy, and other days you just can't get it going for whatever reason, and so I do envision a day, like, long term, when I'm not able to play, or maybe I just decide I don't want to play anymore, where I'm just writing and just conducting or directing, but I haven't invested any money in insuring anything other than my apartment.
What's your most memorable or inspirational performance? The one that just jumped out, or a little fragment of a performance that just said, yeah, that changed my life, right there?
Wow. I had a couple. I've had several, but I guess one of the more recent ones was I've had being in New York, it's a luxury because there's so many great players who just want to play and just will come and play free rehearsals, all the time, just day after day at the musicians union. There's great big bands or small groups, anything. People just want to play. So my experience was really not necessarily as on stage or anything. I wasn't even playing. I was just leading a group that I had just started. A friend of mine and I, who I went to school with, started a big band, and I had been working on these charts, all through grad school and after school a little bit, and had never gotten a good representation of the music, and I kept thinking, like, oh, it was, what am I doing wrong, or what, maybe I'm just not, I don't have it, as a writer. And so I finally decided, like, okay, I got to call, a group of friends of musicians that I play with around town, and just do a reading session of some of these charts and see if, like, these are really any good or if they're total junk, and lo and behold, they turned out to be the pretty good charts, and the band, like, played them so great, and so there was a kind of a different experience for me, and that's why it sticks to me, is because it wasn't me performing, it was me, and we weren't on stage or anything, it was just a free rehearsal like on a Tuesday or something, and I just remember having, like, I was, I don't know, I felt my whole body was, like, buzzing. For the next, like, 2 days, I couldn't believe how great, I felt so great, like, I kept thinking back to hearing what it felt like to hear it, and of course I recorded it too, but it made a really big impact on me, and just, it was something like, wow, okay, I gotta do more of this. This is, like, a really amazing feeling, and it was a different feeling than having than performing and feeling that sort of satisfaction, which is also great. So that's probably the most recent one that I can think of right now.
Do you think the microphone was able to capture that moment in the way that you just described? Would an outside listener hear how special that was for you?
I think so, but you know, I'm not sure because my experience with it was different than everybody else in the room because I had been listening to and hearing it in my head for months, and then also hearing the computer, spit back like a kind of subpar version of what it sort of sounds like, using the MIDI sounds or whatnot. So I don't know. I think those were good performances, and we've had many performances. Actually, we have one coming up next week, but yeah, I think the microphone did a good job of it. But for me, it was so huge because I it was just like this realization of something that I had been imagining for almost probably years, and just to have it all happen at once with several pieces of music and just to have it fly by, and it was a great experience.
So am I right in thinking you prepare your scores and then you're able to listen to them on MIDI? How does that help or hinder your oral imagination?
Well, it does a little both, and it's good that you mentioned the hindering part because. I guess I'd say it helps in the sense that it gives you sort of an idea of what it might sound like, and it also helps for checking notes if maybe you missed an accidental or something, for whatever reason you entered in the computer, just for checking errors. It helps in that sense. But the part where it can get in the way is when you listen to it. Well, there's certain things that the computer just especially with horns, you don't get the same representation because the computer doesn't have all these overtones and everything that a natural acoustical instrument has, and so you don't get these resonance. So certain things that might not sound right on the computer will sound great with instruments, but it sounds wrong on the computer. So it can kind of mess with you if you're not careful, and then it just becomes easy to rely on it to keep pressing play. Like, oh, let me listen to that again, and then you've kind of taken away that part of imagining it in your head, and that's really the most powerful thing. And it's to have that sound in your head and that idea of what you're looking for, and I constantly am having to tell myself that same thing. It's just to all right, stop listening to the computer and think about really what you're trying to do here and imagining and listening back into your head, because that's your brain is really your best tool in that when it comes to that.
What did you learn in a nutshell from your teachers or mentors that you try and pass on to other people, your students, as advice to the young?
One of the mentors that I had as of late, and still a great mentor, is Luis Bonilla, who helped. He plays in the Vanguard Jazz Orchestra. Great teacher, great educator, great person, great musician, and he also produced the record for Innova. And he said, he has a couple of things that he passes on to all students. It's something that it's just like a basic thing. It's something that you still try to remind yourself of it too every day. And that's kind of the cool thing about teaching is you get to, you're reminding yourself of all these things that you still need to work on. But the concept is just, never sacrifice sound or time. And just, you're always going to, every time you put your horn to your face, you're going to play with the best sound and the best time, no matter, whatever's in front of you or whatever you're working on. And that's something that I try to pass on to all my students.
Maybe you can clear up a mystery, because there's a photo on the inside of your CD of the John Yao Quintet, but I count 6 people. Who is the 6th who walks amongst you?
That's Luis Bonilla. Yeah, on the far right. He was there at the sessions producing and making suggestions, and he was a huge help for me because he's just got such a great ear, great musical instincts, and then he's got a lot of experience, and it was invaluable to have him there for all those reasons, and I credit him a lot to that session coming out so great, because he had he ran it really well, and that was exactly what I wanted, because I just wanted to be able to focus on playing and making music and not having to worry too much about not have to think about anything else.
Another member of your incredible band is John Irabagon, who is an Innova star, of course, in his own right.
Yes.
How much of choosing the band is compositional? How much of composition is choosing your band and who plays with you?
That's a huge part. It's something that, excuse me, has become just, it's something that, it's a huge part. It's something that I definitely I'm trying to take more into account more and more with, other projects I'm doing with people. I like to think of, you study all these great composers, and one of which, Duke Ellington, was kind of the I don't know if we would say the first person, but he was someone that really highlighted his writing, or wrote in a way to fit his band. And he was in a different era, so he was able to play with the same guys for every 5 nights a week for many years, and so he knew everyone's strengths and weaknesses and what they like to do, and where they were comfortable, and what situations. So he wrote pieces in that sense, and so that's something that I'm still trying to perfect. But I took that into account with selecting everyone in the band, and John was a big part of that. I've been a huge fan of his playing, and I'm a big fan of his record that he did for Innova, and it was just great to work with him and to be able to put him in situations that and everybody else in the band, that put them in situations that they like to be in and are comfortable, and they're going to play their best. And I think everyone, it shows on the record for sure.
And can you tell us about the record and just give us a insight into the thought process that gave birth to it?
Like I said, it was just during that period of last 2 years, and I started toying around with a few concepts of posing different parts of the band, and having one, maybe dividing the group into of 5 people in half, and then having pairing 3 people doing one thing together, and then two people are doing something else sort of differently or at a different pace, so opposing different parts of the band. That was one thing that I tried to do in a couple of compositions, and in different ways, using some rubato stuff over steady time, and then also having maybe the horns are the ones that are holding the time and everyone else is rubato. Just trying different ideas of opposing pieces of the band. So tunes like Divisions is one of those, like the beginning of that, and then also Funky Sunday, Not Even Close. It's, just having some tension, and then bring us all together, and then get a chance to really throw down as a group. So that wasn't a concept that I'm still working on, but it was, I feel like I just started scratching the surface with that one for this record, so I'm really looking forward to exploring that more.
Well, it's a wonderful release, and so we wish it and you the best in the world. And
Thank you.
Thanks for talking with us today, John. Yeah.
Thank you. Good day.